with Derek, and we were really putting our heads together as to, and our hearts, of what we can do to really make this special. I want to say this is a very special week for me. It's my birthday week, and I want to bring people the most in gifts and the most in possibility. And so one of the things I was sharing earlier on the intention circle was that I wanted to bring back people this week that I really found their work has touched my life and made a difference, and that I enjoy and I go to for guidance and for sharing and connecting. And one of those people is none other than Derek Riddell, who is here, and he wants to really help you all to connect to some of the biggest truths that you are. And the beauty of this, I think the most profound thing is that you're going to realize that everything you want, everything that you desire, everything that you would really love to attain, it's already been done for you. It's already inside of you. And your huge gift in your life is to go in and discover these things. And in fact, it's your unwrapping of your magic that we're going to be doing today, both from the standpoint of you understanding it, but also energetically. And so Derek's also going to be doing a very special activation for where we are right now in the planet's evolution. If you've been following this is the last month of a portal that I believe energetically is closing, and then another portal for more release is going to be opening up. So as we are here now, this is another thing that's going on. So a lot of people have been writing back to the UWEalth offices and to me even personally saying, things have been going great, but then all of a sudden when this month hit, some of these big changes have been happening. I'm seeing all this turmoil, or I'm seeing all these old issues I thought I had worked out. They're coming up. I don't know what to do. So we're going to be dealing with all of this and helping you and serving you and giving you a lot of love and giving you some energetic work too. So I better get started. Derek Riddell is going to be sharing with us the truth about awakened wealth, the strange secret to having everything you need and more than you can imagine without having to struggle or work hard for it, to let it come into your life by virtue of the fact that it already is yours. Derek Riddell is the #1 leading expert in the law of emergence, and he is the soul purpose specialist. And I want to say this, of every topic that we've ever had, the idea of what's my purpose, what's my soul purpose, what's my soul here to do, what am I here to do, how am I going to connect with that, is one of the things that we hear repeatedly. So we're going to be getting into some of that as well. And his mission and love, and you only have to spend a moment with him to know he loves this, is to help people in sometimes minutes tap into their true purpose, even if they've been blocked for years for even understanding it. After a life-changing brush with death while making a movie, Derek Riddell considered becoming a monk, then even a minister, and he literally closed himself off in his apartment without TV, news, or anything, and meditated for several years. He emerged with truths, with understandings, with a different perspective on the entire universe that's enabled him to create almost and possibly everything he's ever wanted, and continuing to create it with ease, with grace, and incredible flow. He also emerged as the world's leading expert on the law of emergence. He ended up training top 500 executives, Fortune 500 executives in relationship and communication skills. He's also worked to change the media by coaching writers and artists and professionals in the entertainment field, even Oscar and Emmy award winners, and many on how to create an unlimited life, how to live deeply from your purpose, how to tap into your true destiny, your heart, and who you always have been. And the big takeaway I want everyone to get today is that this is already inside of you. And get ready, let's begin to effortlessly release it on the count of 3. Let's send Derek a huge amount of love. 1, 2, and 3. Derek, welcome back to the UWEalth Revolution.
Wow, thanks, Darius. It's really great to be back. It's so awesome, your energy and just the intention that's set here. And I want to start it by saying what I say to people when it's their birthday: Happy Appearance Day. Because, because you were not born on that date a few years ago, but you simply chose to appear with a very specific purpose and gift to deliver the world. And so I want to celebrate your Appearance Day and celebrate the reason that called you to come on here to Earth's stage and play your part in this divine drama. I just want to thank you for doing that, because you answered that call to appear we're all able to appear in this moment in this way and in all the ways that we're able to appear in your events and all the many, many people's lives that have been touched is because you said yes to a call to appear here. And I want everybody to understand that this is going on all the time, that when you say yes to your yes, you are aligning yourself and creating an environment and a space so that many, 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 many other people down the line, a legacy of people will be able to say yes to theirs. Because the truth is that we're all connected. There's really only one seed that's being planted here and that's unfolding, one tree with many branches. And I'm just so grateful that you said yes to appear here, Darius.
Yeah. And you know what I think about is that everybody has that calling. Everybody has that purpose inside of them that many times it's been locked away or many times been shut off because of something someone said or the way they're perceiving the world or the fact that they haven't been able to really connect to the heart and turn off that, ego, that monkey mind that's telling them they're not good enough and listen to the real voice of their truth. You share a lot, Derek, about wealth spells and turning that off and reversing it so you can create the life you want. What have you found is maybe one of the biggest wealth spells that keeps people stuck?
Well, yeah, there's a couple things. The first thing I want to say is that the fact that you are here, I'm speaking to all of you, means you already did say yes. And because you appeared. And that the fact that you appeared, nothing appears in this world except as an answer to a prayer, as an answer to an intention, as a call. Just like the chair you're sitting on or whatever you're sitting on, that exists as the response to a real need. And so everything that appears as a response to a real need. It's an unfolding of a divine pattern. And so you already said yes. And so what we're doing now is we're reminding ourselves and each other about the yes we already said yes to. And that one of the biggest, and when I talk about wealth, I don't just mean money. I mean this infinite supply, this infinite abundance that can create everything that you need in your life, not just money, but relationships, money. It's the substance of all form. And that you brought it all with you. And it's what I call, the great reversal. And I think it's important to know that, for myself, before I understood this, I was struggling and striving for so many years, using all these techniques and tools to attract things to me, to achieve things, to make things happen, and all kinds of therapy to fix and improve and heal this image of myself that I thought was broken and damaged and lacking and missing stuff. And rather than that improving my life, it actually drove me to become addicted to drugs and alcohol and almost killed me in an overdose. So because I was driving to fix and change and heal and improve and attract and achieve and make happen around this self that was a fiction, that didn't actually exist. And when I finally had my final breakdown and I ended up cloistering myself in my apartment and going on this inner journey, I discovered a self, a reality of my being that had never been damaged by anything. And so it didn't need to be fixed or healed. And it already had everything that it needed, so it didn't need to have anything added to it. And that shift of awareness, that paradigm shift alone, led me from eventually understanding and creating the tools and the practices to actually do it in a practical way. But, to go from being broken and suicidal and living on 19 cents, Kraft macaroni and cheese boxes, 19 cents boxes of that as my main meals, to doing all the things that I do now, because I stopped the struggle of trying to pull life to me or trying to fix this thing I thought was broken. And instead, the majority of my energy started to go to discovering what is this perfection, this divine pattern, this masterpiece that was already planted in me before I was even planted in my mother's womb. And that I already knew was there, and that's what I said yes to when I showed up here. And then once we show up in this world and the world sends all these messages that we don't have, that we're lacking, that we're broken, we forget that we said yes because we already had it. That we showed up here because we already had something to give. We didn't show up here to get anything. We showed up here to give something. And that's really what the word human from the Sanskrit term of man, or MN, means the dispenser of divine gifts. And that this is a great irony. Our birthday really represents the day we showed up to dispense gifts, not to get gifts. Our great appearance day, we showed up here not to get a bunch of gifts, but we showed up here with all of these gifts to give. And that's why our celebration of our birthdays and our appearance days, one of the greatest ways is to get back in touch with what are the gifts people are going to give me, but what is the great gift I came here to give? That's the greatest way to celebrate your birthday, because that's its deepest meaning, is that you came here with everything. And so that's why I like to say that if you want more to come into your life, you have to find a way to let more life come out of you.
Okay.
Because it's already here. You know, you've already got it all. And by the way, that's also what one great master meant when Jesus said, you know, everybody was asking about when heaven was going to come and when they were going to get all the goodies of heaven and all that stuff. And he said, it's not going to come. It's not going to be some place you go to, and it's going to be like over there or over here. He said, behold, the kingdom of heaven is at hand now, and it is within you. But having eyes, you don't see it, and having ears, you don't hear it. And basically what he was saying is, as long as you're judging by appearances, you're not going to be able to discern or discover the gifts that are already here. But when you learn to judge spiritually, to discern with your soul senses, you discover that you've never left heaven. You've never left wholeness or harmony, that you're living in it, you're having your being in it right now. And so the first great wealth myth to bust is that there's something out there that you have to get or add to yourself. The first great myth and the great truth, awakened wealth truth, is the realization that you've already got it all within you. You brought it with you, and you're living in it. You're literally saturated in it. And we can move on from there. But that's the first great myth. And the second great myth, which we can talk about, is that wealth is not material. It's not dollar bills. It's not houses and cars and things. Those are the fruits of the wealth consciousness. Those are the evidence of the activation of supply within you. They are not wealth. And when you think they're wealth, you go after them, you hold on to them, and you end up stagnating and being stuck with where the real flow is coming from. And I use the analogy of the tree and the fruit on the tree, that the fruit on the tree is not the wealth of the tree. It is the evidence of this invisible principle of supply that draws from the soil the raw materials and turns it into, through that alchemical process, the sap, the marble, the blossom, and the fruit. And from literally nothingness, from dirt, it turns it into all this beautiful bounty of fruit. And that's why the gardener or the farmer knows that when the fruit is gone, the tree isn't broke or broken. So it doesn't cut the tree down. It knows that the tree is just as wealthy when all the fruit is gone as when all the fruit is there. It knows that so much that it doesn't try to hoard the fruit. It doesn't try to hold on to the fruit. It knows that, in fact, if you do that, the fruit will go rotten and the tree will die. That it has to let the fruit go. It has to circulate, has to give it away. And the more the tree is able to give forth the flower or the fruit, the more flower and the more fruit it produces, not less. The more you try to hold on to the flower or the fruit, it dies, it stagnates, and you have a bunch of rotten flowers or fruits on the vine, but the tree can't produce a new harvest. So a gardener or a farmer already knows this principle intrinsically, that wealth and abundance is this invisible process. And so it shares and gives away and sells and invests and just keeps the fruits and the flowers circulating and keeps the tree and its roots healthy, and it knows that in due season it will continue to produce a harvest, and that even every flower and every fruit contains within it the ability to produce a whole nother harvest. On and on. It's literally revealing the principle of infinity or infinite abundance. So it's a big paradigm shift to realize that, number one, we have everything within us. We brought it all with us. We're literally living and moving and having our being in a field of infinite abundance. And number two, it's not material, it's spiritual, or it's invisible, or it's energy. And so then all of that means that all of our efforts to try to hold on to stuff and then judge based on how much stuff we have or don't have, all of that is what's been keeping us asleep in this great hypnotic spell, this mass hypnotic spell that we are separate from our good, separate from God, separate from each other, and that we have to go out and get it and all that stuff. So those are the two big wealth spells that we want to bust today and begin to reconnect people to the real source of their abundance, the real source of their supply, which, and the practice, the very practical ways to begin to activate and generate and circulate that supply into their life. And that's what I call the great reversal.
Well, we've got a lot of people writing in. One person I want to share, Martha, she says, I'm a light healer, I'm a counselor, yet I have not figured out yet how to make money. And for people that are dealing with, let's say, the financial side of wealth and a lack there, how is this work different than what maybe they've been exposed to in the past? And you're familiar, and you know many of the teachers that are out there, just to really get some clarity. How is this different, Derek, for those looking for that financial wealth or even that inner wealth, the you-wealth, which is in every area of their life?
Yes. Well, the first thing, and this isn't merely semantics, but it's really, the first thing is we have to understand, have a shift in our perception of what wealth is and where it really comes from. Because even in the idea of how do I make money, that we've already put it outside of us, we've already materialized something that is really spiritual, and we're also trying to do something that we can't do. It's like the farmer saying, how do I make fruit on the tree? You don't make the fruit. The tree does. There's a natural process that turns the raw soil into the sap and the marble and the blossom and the fruit. That's what you need to focus on. The farmer doesn't try to make fruit. The farmer plants a seed, cultivates the right conditions for what's already in the seed. The farmer knows that not only is the tree already in the seed, but so is all the fruit. And so the farmer doesn't try to make fruit. The farmer cultivates the ripe and ready conditions that are congruent with that tree, with that seed pattern. And then once it emerges and starts to blossom, the farmer keeps its attention on the roots that are buried in the soil. The soil for us is our soul, is our internal environment, the ecology of our consciousness. And so the farmer is constantly cultivating and nourishing the roots, and the deeper the roots, the richer the fruits. And so he's not trying to, or she's not trying to make fruit. And that's, again, so that's that's the shift, the big paradigm shift. And, the other thing is that if we believe someone or something outside of us is our source, and this is really part 3. So part 1 is that you've already got it all with you. Part 2 is that it's spiritual or invisible. It's not material. And part 3 is that you've made something or someone outside of you your source. So it's like a tree making, something. It sounds ridiculous when you talk about it from a natural standpoint, but this is what we do. Making something out there the source of its fruit, instead of knowing that it draws it from the deep, rich resources of the soil. So much that if its roots are deep enough and healthy enough in the soil, even when all of the external sources and resources are dried up, there could be a drought, there could be a terrible storm, there could be all kinds of stuff that seems to be against the tree producing its fruit. If its roots are deep enough, it can produce fruit even in a drought. It can produce fruit or whatever it's producing even after a great storm, and it will still remain standing because it knows that its source isn't out there. And so, I remember when this truth first came home to me, and I was, doing this work, and this was after I had cloistered myself in my apartment, and I was going on my deep inner journey, and I was living off of a savings account and praying and doing all this work. And at a certain point in that journey, I was running out of money, and I was pretty much broke. And I was so upset. I was like, I'm doing all this work, I'm doing all these, all this stuff, and how am I broke? I'm literally going to get evicted, and I'm literally living on a prayer. Like, that's all that I had left was prayer. I had nothing left. I had no visible means of support. No job, no money left over. I was literally had more month at the end of my money, and I was going to get kicked out. And I remember I was so angry at God. I was so, to be honest, I was pissed off. I was like, how can I be doing all this work, all these, tools and techniques and all this stuff, and I'm broke. And once again, I'm back to where I was before. I'm going to end up with nothing. And I was really upset. And I finally said, okay, this is it. And I sat down and I laid the gauntlet down and I sat in my meditation chair and I said, God, and by the way, when I talk about God, folks, I'm not talking about some guy with a beard on a cloud. I'm talking about that spiritual presence or power or intelligence, whatever your concept of it is. And I said, either this stuff is real or it's not. But one way or the other, I'm not getting up from this chair until I know. Because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of struggling. I don't understand how I've done all this work and it's not working. I'm not getting up from this chair until I know the truth. It's kind of like Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree and making a vow he was not going to move. And though it was not gracious, I was not in any way Buddha-like in my decision. I was angry. And I sat down and I began to pray and meditate and open up. And this, eventually the daylight turned to dawn and the crickets came out for their nightly chorus. And I continued to sit. It's really like Jacob in the Bible wrestling with his angels and not willing to let go of them until they gave him their blessing. And I just sat there, and eventually at some point, early morning or late night, all of a sudden there's like this voice came to me, and it said, you made your bank account God. You made your savings account God. And whenever you make, thou shalt have no other gods before me. It was like, whoa. It was pretty powerful. And it was like, when you make anything outside of you your source of anything, your source of abundance, your source of wealth, your source of income, it basically said, you made this your God. And if you make something else your God, then that's all you get, folks. It's like the prodigal son. If you leave the father's house and go on into the world and try to make it on your own, you end up broke and broken, like the branch cut off from the vine. It withers and it dies. And eventually you have to hang your head and come back home and say, And so it was like, that's what all these stories have been trying to tell us, by the way. For all the great parables and religions, these are all talking about how we separated ourselves from the one great source within us and have been trying to make it on our own in the world. And so we are the prodigal son and daughter. We are the branch cut off from the vine. And we wonder why we struggle and suffer and have lack and limitation and eventually wither and feel, And so this voice said to me, you made your bank account God, and when you do that, the universe is set up to betray you. It's what's called the great betrayal. We talked about the great reversal, which is the realization that it's all within you, and you got to find a way to let it out. And this is the great betrayal. And it's set up this way because as long as you make someone or something your power, then you are going to become a victim of that. You are going to become a prisoner of that. You are going to live a life as an indentured servant to people, places, and things outside of you, and you'll never be able to bring forth the full fruits of your destiny. Because who you are and what you're here to be and to do and to create is unprecedented. And you need to be untethered and to the world of what's currently appearing so that you can bring forth the gifts that you're really here to bring. If you think someone else or something else outside of you is your source, you're gonna try to conform and contort and twist yourself into a pretzel to try to get what you think you need and try to not get rejected and not get abandoned and not all of that game we play, and you won't be able to show up as the fully empowered, fully funded, fully franchised expression of the divine intelligence that sent you here on a mission with a purpose, with a gift, and with everything you need. Because you'll be putting it in the world, you'll be cut off from that great power and wisdom, and you'll never, ever be available to what's trying to move through you and emerge through you. So it was like all of this was like a download to me. And it wasn't nearly as clear as I'm able to articulate it now. It was just like, bam, you made something else your source, and that's why it's failed you. And in that moment, it was like the pressure valve within me just opened up. And this great peace came over me. And it's when I finally understood what the Bible meant when it said a peace that passes human understanding. Because it wasn't a peace based on circumstance. Based on my circumstance, I should not have been peaceful.
Right.
Because my circumstance sucked. You know, I didn't have enough money. I was going to be evicted. I was in pain. I didn't have a job. My bank account was empty. So, you know, so based on the peace we understand, there was no place for peace. And that's why it was a peace that passes understanding. It was a peace that had nothing to do with my conditions. It was a peace that was derived from the realization that God or divine love within me really was my source and really did have everything that I needed and really was taking care of me. And the world can't give me that.
Well, it sounds like, you know, first incredibly profound, and it sounds like for everybody here, as you're maybe looking at your bank account or looking at your business saying, how am I going to make more and I don't have enough, there are things trying to reach you, energies, ideas, inspirations, ideas from the heart, that if you disconnect from looking at that one thing that you think is so empty and really look deeply at what you are, who you are, what you have, where your source and flow really comes from, which is from a much deeper place than the bank account. The bank account is just the effect of how much of your source you're really giving to the world, right, Derek? So I mean that's the big shift, is realizing that. I want to hear from everybody where you're at in your life. What's the big challenge that you have? And let's then, I'm going to read some of these out, and then let's see where those are coming from. Is that the effect, or are you operating at cause in how you're looking at that challenge or problem as you report that in? Derek, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, because you just said a really important thing too, Darius, is that if you think your bank account is your source, know that you are literally collapsing all of infinity, or whatever you think is your source. That client, that bank account, that job, that one project, that person, you've just collapsed all of infinity into that one little finite choice or two. And so whereas the universe has infinite organizing possibilities. It has infinite potentiality. There's not one or two or 10 ways for your abundance to show up, for your love, your validation, your respect, your companionship, whatever it is that appears to be missing. There is an infinite way, and you cannot know it. This is why it also says in, I think it's the Old Testament, lean not on your own understanding, for your thoughts are not my thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. This is what the Spirit is saying. It's saying that when you lean on your own understanding, on your own perception, on your own appearance, you've just collapsed the great God of the universe, the great infinite power and intelligence, into this finite little story that you're running around in. And that's why we stay stuck in our story. So this is what happened. I'll tell you the outcome of this experience for me. So I finally I let go of my story. I let go of my idea that I was in control. I let go of being the manager of the universe and became an employee again. I let go of the idea that this bank account was my source. All of that, and it happened spiritually in that moment of surrender. And there was a great peace. And for a few days, I walked around without being afraid anymore. I still didn't know what was going to happen, but I just felt all was well. And I got a call. And it was from an agent that I was no longer with, and he said, I know you don't do commercials and stuff anymore because you're too spiritual. So it's like, I was pretty crazy back in those days. I thought that being spiritual meant you couldn't do so many things. I became like an ascetic. But he said, I know you don't do this because you're too spiritual, and yet they called looking for you out of the blue. And I knew instantly that was an instant demonstration of that experience, that spiritual opening. And I said, okay, I'll go. And I went on this audition for a commercial, and I booked it, and for 2 days' work, I made a year's worth of income.
Wow.
Now, what's important to know is that I could never have put that on my vision board. I could never have put that into a plan. I could never have visualized that. I couldn't have even prayed for that particular outcome because that wasn't even in my field of possibility. I had rejected that stuff. I had cut that stuff out. I wasn't even thinking in that direction. But the universe has infinite organizing power, and it knows the quickest, cleanest, clearest, and most joyful way to bring forth what is needed in the moment. And it turned out it was an amazingly fun and joyful experience and just a blast, and I got to make a year's worth of income for 2 days and come back to my spiritual work and eventually have the space to develop. And that also became the beginning of a new way of living, which is living more from insight than by eyesight. And that's what Jesus was saying. Jesus was saying when he said, and not just Jesus, but Buddha and all the great masters said this, he said, you can't see it because you're judging by your eyes and your ears. But if you start to learn to judge spiritually, to discern spiritually, which starts with leaning on the great spiritual truths, then you start to live from that. It's like in Indiana Jones when he has to cross the great, that bridge and there's nothing there. And it's one of the 3 great tasks he has to accomplish. And he tries to put his toe out and there's nothing there. And only when he's willing to walk onto what appears to be nothing, to step out onto nothing, does the bridge begin to appear. And I believe that was actually, in the movie, it's called The Path of God. And it's the bridge of faith or the path of God. And so this is how we begin to learn to live more from insight than eyesight, to know that it's all within us and to find a way to let it out. And that was really the beginning of me living, and it's what's allowed me to go through recessions and depressions and all manner of storms and challenges, and to expand in the face of contraction rather than to contract in the face of contraction. And this is what the emergence model and the emergence teaching is all about. And what I want to invite all of you to do right now, because I'm activating it even as I'm talking, I can feel it, is I want you to just hear the authority in my voice. It's not Derek's authority, because Derek, I of myself have no authority. It's the direct experience of this energy, of this source, that I'm now conveying to you. And I want to invite you to just hear the resonance that what I'm telling you is not hope. It's not a wishful thinking. It's not a maybe. It's not a theory. What I'm telling you is truth with a capital T. Everything you could ever need to be all you were created to be is within you. You brought it with you. You're living in it and as it. It's waiting to emerge now. And everything in the universe is conspiring to activate that truth within you and to allow you to give those gifts to the world. I'm telling you what I know, not what I'm hoping. And so if you can feel that resonance, lean into that field. Even if right now your mind is feeling fear and doubt and worry, feel that you can lean on that energetic field right now, that you can just lean into it. That's what it's also meant as the everlasting arms of God, that there is a love, that there is a field of energy and of power that is loving you and supporting you right now. So that even when you're not feeling sure, you can lean on the sureness, the blessed assurance of this field of love and energy that's even now being activated, that has been activated through this intention circle, and it's being magnified even now. And just know that in that energetic field, even now, as I'm activating even more, that it's beginning to dissolve the resistance. It's beginning to activate that soul purpose blueprint. And it's beginning to elevate your frequency and your vibration now so that you become more and more tuned into that station where the music of your heart is already playing.
Wow. Well, I know people are feeling this, and a lot of people are already writing in as they begin to let this energy and this truth, because, one thing you said privately, Derek, was everything that they need is inside of them. If we can just begin to activate it, if we begin to put that vibration into their field, where they become aware of it, where it comes forward and becomes their way of interacting with the world through that vibration, that it'll just happen almost automatically. I've got a question from Loria in Mexico. She says, how long does a person wait to trust, to believe? She says, years are passing. I'm not sure whether things are going to be coming forward. What can she do? So for those people, Derek, that are kind of waiting, maybe it's that they're waiting and not doing enough. You talk about the 7 gifts that they need to be present to. What are those gifts, and could that be something that maybe Loria in Mexico or anyone else who's waiting really needs to get present to, whether they're bringing that into their day-to-day reality?
Absolutely. And waiting is such a powerful concept, and there's 2 things I want to say about waiting, and then we'll get into the 7 gifts. Is on one hand, you don't want to, if you're waiting for something outside of you to change, then you will be waiting forever. Because what you're waiting for, you're waiting with. And you're weighing it down. And so on one hand, this is the ultimate weight loss program. WAIT. Because you've got it all with you. So there's 2 kinds of waiting. One is where you're waiting for someone or something outside of you to change before you can start activating your potential and stepping into it. That's the waiting that keeps you stuck. There's another kind of waiting which is called waiting upon the Lord, which means waiting upon the law. Lord means law of life. It means as you're doing the work, which we'll talk about, there is an element of waiting in the sense that you're not making it happen, you're making it welcome. So as you're activating the energy and you're feeling the confidence and the poise and the power and the peace that activation will bring you, there is a level of waiting in the sense that the appearances of your world may not change right away. But how you'll know that progress is being made, spiritual progress is not based on how the appearances change, but based on how you react to the appearances. So that's how you start to know you're growing. If you're still trying to reach out and control or manipulate or waiting for something to change, the real change hasn't occurred within you, and that's where the focus needs to go. If you're feeling powerful and confident and joyful, but the world of appearances hasn't changed yet, then then there's a period of waiting where you keep growing stronger in the feeling. And here's what will happen. You will reach a point where you'll be happy and joyful, or like I was, where you'll be at peace, even while the appearances haven't changed, and it won't matter anymore. That's the arc of transformation. At first, you react to appearances. You try to control them, manipulate them, or resign to them. Then you do the inner work of starting activating your own power. You cut yourself off from appearances and realize they are not your source. You start turning within, activating the power plant within you, generating the qualities that appear to be missing in your experience. You start getting to a point where then your reaction to that appearance gets less and less and less until you reach a neutral point where you no longer react to that appearance. Then you go to the other side where now there may be an appearance of lack, and instead of being afraid or even neutral, you actually feel inspired, and you know now you are really on the other side. So that's the arc of transformation, and that's the different kinds of waiting. And so we're going to talk about some of the things you can do to activate, because remember, it's all within you. If you want more to come into your life, you have to find a way to let more life come out of you. And I love this poem by Robert Browning, which is called The Imprisoned Splendor. And he says, truth is within ourselves. And you can just replace truth with anything that you think is missing in your life. Truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things. Whatever you may believe, there is an inmost center in us all where truth abides in fullness. And around, wall upon wall, the gross flesh hems it in. This perfect, clear perception which is truth. A baffling and perverting carnal mesh binds it. And that's the mortal thinking, the material beliefs, all of that, and makes all error. But to know rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, than in effecting an entry for a light that is supposed to be without. So what he's saying is, opening out a way to let something out of you instead of waiting for something outside of you or manipulating things to try to bring something in. He's saying the same thing I've been saying. And so the 7 gifts are a practice of how to activate this imprisoned splendor, how to activate this internal wealth, this infinite supply that you've already been given, to draw your roots deeper into the soil of your soul and turn that raw material into the blossom and the branch and the flower and the fruit. And so I'm going to go over them really briefly, and then we'll touch upon a couple of them specifically. Okay. But the 7 gifts are as followed: giving forth, giving away, giving up, giving in, forgiving, giving to yourself, and giving thanks. So those are the 7 gifts. And in brief, giving forth means giving forth of your time, your talent, and your treasure. It means being of service, giving of your whatever you have, money or whatever, in terms of supporting others, and of your talent, meaning giving of your gifts. Not to try to get anything. Remember, when it comes to the emergence model, giving is getting. They are synonymous. So because you can only experience having what you are actually giving. You can't give what you don't have, and you can't keep what you don't give. It's all part of one thing. So the first gift is giving forth of your time, your talent, and your treasure. And that's one of the reasons Martin Luther King said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And then the second gift is giving away. So that's anything that you really don't need or use anymore. We hold on to so much stuff. Our cars, our closets, our homes, our garages, our cupboards, our drawers. It's like the junk drawer. Like, you know what a junk drawer is? There's another name for it. It's called the trash. It's like, why do we do that? But all of it really is psychic energy. All the things we're holding on to that we say, well, I may need that someday. If you look underneath that energy, you'll see it's really an underlying fear or some old sentimentality. It's some emotional binding or psychic binding. So this second gift, as you look for all the things in your life that you really don't need anymore, that you really don't use anymore, but that could be valuable to someone else, books, clothes, toys, whatever, and you start giving all of that away, you free up a space now for energetically, emotionally, and ultimately, literally, what's been trying to get in but couldn't. It's like you have all these airplanes circling the runway and none of them can land. So giving away is the second gift. Giving up. This is all the old habits, resentments, criticisms, judgments, complaints, anything that is no longer congruent, energetically, spiritually, or emotionally, with the life that you are trying to create. You may be saying, I want more love in my life, but you're holding on to resentment and unforgiveness. Right. So, or bitterness or criticism or judgment. Well, understand that the vibration of love cannot cohabitate in an environment of resentment or criticism. It's like trying to take a polar bear and make them live in the desert. That polar bear will either die or it will escape, but it will not be able to survive and thrive in the desert. So understand that vibrationally, if you're holding on to a vision of abundance, but you're holding on to all these complaints about how bad the economy is, that's a vibration of lack. They cannot cohabitate. You may get some money, but that money's looking for the door as quickly as possible. Why? Because it cannot survive or thrive in the environment you've created for it. So you have to give up these habits that are no longer congruent with the vision you're trying to create in your life. Again, what's happening is you're trying to serve two masters, to give another biblical reference. You're trying to serve the master of wealth and abundance and the master of lack and limitation. It doesn't work. You are a house divided, and a house divided will not stand. So this gift is you finding all the places where you're holding on to things that are just not congruent with who you really are, who you want to be, and what you're trying to create. You give them all up, or at least give them up one at a time. So that's the third gift. Are you starting to feel this, Darius, as these give of these gifts, the energetic shift, the energetic release? Then the next gift, the fourth gift, is giving in. And this is the gift of releasing resistance and surrender. This is the Serenity Prayer. This is where you look at all the places where you think you're the manager of the universe and you give in and surrender and become an employee again. This is all the places where you're trying to make stuff happen and you need to surrender and make it welcome. This is all the places where you think that you of yourself are the one doing the work and you surrender. So any of those places of resistance, you start to give in the resistance, surrender, and understand that true surrender is never an acquiescence to the appearance. You're not giving up to the appearance. You're giving in and surrendering and yielding to the larger life that's trying to emerge in you. Understand if you're in a crisis, and especially if it's chronic, it's because you are trying to live in a world that is too small. That a larger life has been activated in you through your desire, your yearning, your prayer, and all your exposure to these high-frequency trainings. A larger life has been activated. The oak tree has been activated, but it's bumping up against the acorn shell. And there's a part of you still trying to be an acorn and hold on to that protective shell and praying and affirming to be an oak tree. You cannot be an acorn in an oak tree. It's impossible. And it will cause you to feel stuck, to suffer, and to stagnate. As the Gospel of Thomas says, if you let what is within you, if you bring it forth, it will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. So in this stage, you're recognizing something larger is trying to unfold and emerge, and you give in to that. Then we move into stage 5, forgiving. And this is where you understand that any debt in your life is a sign is a sign of unforgiveness. There's a story that somebody owes you something. They owe you money, or they owe you apology, or they owe you forgiveness, or they owe you those years they took back. Somewhere someone owes you something, or you feel you owe someone something. And if you can actually give it to them and you're done. Tear up that IOU. But in those places where there's nothing more you can do, and you're still holding yourself in debt, IOU. Well, what do you have when you have a bunch of IOUs? You have debt. And that psychic and emotional debt becomes financial debt and financial stagnation and emotional stagnation. And your whole life starts to stagnate because the energy can't flow where there is debt. And so forgiveness is about letting everyone go, including yourself, saying nobody owes me anything, releasing everyone, forgive me of my debts even as I forgive others of theirs. That's forgiveness. And the deepest level of forgiveness is you come to the realization, mystically speaking, that nothing real can ever be hurt and nothing unreal exists. That there is only wholeness, there is only love, there is only abundance, and what you think went bad or wrong actually was just an experience in the mind, played out on the stage of your experience, but nothing was really ever lost. Nothing was really ever hurt. Nothing was really ever taken away. And that's where it says, behold, I make all things new, and all the years the locusts have eaten shall be restored unto you. That's the power of forgiveness. It doesn't matter how long you've been struggling. It doesn't matter how much time you think you've wasted. It doesn't matter how much loss and betrayal you think you've been through. When you understand this gift and you start to give it forth, forgiving, releasing, all that you think you've lost is restored unto you. That's how powerful it is. Then we get to the sixth gift, giving to yourself. Okay. And this is such an important one because we are, us spiritual, heart-centered folks are really good at giving in a lot of cases, but we're not really good at receiving. And it's like we're walking around just breathing out all the time. And how's that going to work?
Right.
You just breathing out, and you die, right? You expire. And that's why so many people are feeling burnt out and overwhelmed and resentful and unappreciated and invalidated and disrespected. Because guess where it's really starting? It's all starting with ourselves. We're not validating, respecting, approving, loving, cherishing, and championing ourselves. And so this stage, giving to yourself, this is where you look at any place where you're trying to get from someone or you're waiting for someone to give you something, whether it's a quality or a thing, and you ask, how can I start giving that to myself?
Right. Well, I would assume, where do I also have it right now? Because so many people, they may look at what we're doing here and say, gosh, it would be great if I had that. Many of you have it, or you wouldn't appreciate it. You couldn't recognize or enjoy the vibration, because if that part of you wasn't already in you there, that you just need to bring forward.
Yes, and just recognizing that it's there, and then claiming it for yourself unabashedly and unashamedly can be a powerful form of giving to yourself. And that brings us to the final gift, and that is giving thanks.
Okay.
And what you appreciate appreciates. It expands. And the arc of gratitude is that you start off with no reason to be grateful, and you ultimately end up grateful for no reason. And it moves through a stage of finding something to be grateful and eventually being grateful for everything until you live in a state of gratitude for no reason. And when you activate gratitude, the universe will bend over backwards to keep giving you reasons to be thankful. Because the state of gratitude is the evidence that the gift has already been given. And that is the congruent, you get it? So that is the congruent condition. When we talk about creating the congruent conditions, becoming aligned, when you live in a state of gratitude, you are living in a state of, I've already got it. The gift has already been given. I have it. I am it. It's my birthday. Every day is my birthday. Every day I'm celebrating. That state of a consciousness is the open sesame for the universe to keep pouring forth through you and to you blessings and gifts and, like I said, more and more reasons to be grateful.
This is amazing. So many people are writing in with questions and also feeling the energy of what we're putting out, the vibration. You know, one of the big things I love about Derek is when we go through these 7 gifts, when we start talking about this and you start opening up to these ideas and these vibrations during these sessions, your body starts to know what to do with it. Your energy field starts to know what to do. It starts to resonate in that place. Many of you are writing in, getting new ideas, getting new ways of looking at the world, feeling different vibrations coming up, different possibilities. And so what we want to do is continue to move you in that direction. Derek, can we do, I know you had a special activation based on really where people are at right now and everything going on in the world and in the world of energy and how this planet is transforming. I know I asked you maybe we could do something special for today to really not just have people are feeling it, but I want people to really like almost cement in some of this change vibration into their being and activate in them that greater self that we're talking about, that we know is there, that is them.
Absolutely. And just trust, if this feels like there's a lot of ideas here, there's really only a few central ideas that I want you to keep in mind, and that is that everything you could ever need is already within you. You're already living in it, and that if you want more to come into your life, you need to find a way to let more life come out of you. And I would say the fourth one, which we're going to get into in this process here, is, like I said before, is that where in many cases where we're feeling stuck, stagnant, victimized, let down, it's because we've made someone or something outside of us our source. And so one of the great healings, and as part of this great reversal, we need to start locating those places and cutting them off and returning back to the real source. And it's the ultimate empowerment process. And these gifts are one of the ways to begin doing that, because these gifts turn on that inner power plant, you know, and help you to start generating what appears to be missing in your life. But I want to take you through a little process. And I also wanted to say also, again, like I said in the beginning, just keep leaning into the frequency here, leaning into the authority that's resonant in this vibration, and just relaxing and resting from any concern or fear right now, and trusting that this energy will hold you up. And I'm continuing to activate it as we go through this process. So, and we'll talk about a little bit later how you can get that kind of support, you know, on an ongoing basis. But right now, I want you to take a moment and close your eyes. And just take a nice deep breath into your heart. And one more deep breath, imagining you're pulling the light into your heart. And just see and feel it filling your body up. And as you exhale, imagine you're releasing anything and everything that no longer serves you. All the old or stagnant energy, just releasing out of every pore of your being like smoke, billowing away. With every in-breath, you breathe in the light. And with every out-breath, you exhale through every pore of your body. The old energy, the stuck energy, the fear, the doubt, the worry. And it just becomes a natural recirculation system that's clearing out. And I want you to take a moment now and just look at one area of your life where you are feeling the most stuck, or the most in fear, or the most in pain. And just notice where you've made someone or something your God, your source. And when I say you've made them your God or your source, what I mean very specifically is that God or source or the infinite loving intelligence that is within you, it is the only source of your life. Your source of power, your source of love, your source of wealth, health, wisdom, genius. It truly is the source of everything. And so wherever we made something else outside of us the source of those things, we cut ourselves off from the source within us. Now, that does not mean that people and things outside of us cannot be the channels of our good. They absolutely can and will be. That spouse, that boss, that teacher, that book. They will be a channel of your internal teacher, your internal power, your internal wealth. But if you think they are the source, then you're stuck. Then you're disempowered. So I want you to take a moment and just notice one of those places where you've made someone or something your source, your power. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's your bank account, your savings account, your spouse, some money, some project. So just notice where you've made anyone or anything your source. And you know what it is because you can kind of feel it. There's constriction around it. There's fear around it. There's a sense that you have to hold to it tightly. Or maybe you've just resigned. You've given up. You still think they're your source, but you don't think they're ever going to show up for you. So it can either be a holding tightly, a controlling, or a resignation. But in either cases, you've made something or someone your source. And just notice if the mind is coming up already and arguing, but of course it's my source. I mean, I get my money from my job. How else? Or of course, I don't have a job. My spouse works and pays all our bills. Of course they're my source. Just notice, without judgment or resistance, whatever self-talk is arising. And now as you look at that relationship to that person or that thing, notice how you feel in that relationship. Notice how you feel disempowered. Maybe you feel stressed to have to be a certain way or do things a certain way, even when they're not authentic, so that you can get or keep that supply or that security that this thing represents. Maybe you say yes when you really want to say no. Maybe you say no to yourself when you really want to say yes, all because you believe this thing is your source. Notice any resentment there, any guilt, any shame. No judgment, just awareness. Let yourself feel the pain that this wrong relationship to your wealth, to your source, to your security has been causing you. You cannot heal what you won't feel. And as you're willing to feel the pain it's causing you, that in and of itself will begin to cause the transformation. Awareness. You don't have free will until you have awareness. So just notice now what it's been costing you in terms of self-worth, self-esteem. Notice that you're already paying a high price for this. Feel it. See it. Maybe even notice that despite all of that, all that you've done to try to get and grab and hold on to this source outside of you, you still don't feel safe and secure. You still don't have enough. Just notice that. The ego is very tricky. It will try to convince us that what we're doing is working and keep us stuck until we have this level of awareness. Maybe you even notice that it's backfired completely and you've lost your job or your partner. Just notice where life seems to be betraying you. Remember, as I talked about the great betrayal. And remember that the universe is set up to betray you when you make these things your source so that you can wake up and come back to your power. It's all conspiring for your freedom. So now we're going to begin to heal this. First, by remembering and feeling into the resonance that what's true about you in this situation is that this person, place, or thing was never your source of anything. Like I said, at best they were a channel. You were not getting anything from them, but rather your source was coming through them. And if it wasn't already active in your consciousness, it never could have shown up even through them. So just feel back into this awareness that it's all within you. Feel your way back into this truth that everything you could ever need, you brought with you. And even remember a time in your life when you did feel like you had what you really needed and wanted. A time when you felt empowered around wealth or abundance or whatever is the quality that's appearing missing right now. Just open up now to a time when you felt empowered around this. It might have been when you were a little kid and you just had you had $5 in your pocket and you just felt like the king of the world or the queen of the world. It might have been at your birthday when you got all these gifts and you just felt so loved and like you had so much love and support. Just recall a time now when you did feel empowered, when you weren't feeling like you had to manipulate or control your circumstances to get something. And as you're feeling into that feeling, take a nice deep breath and let that feeling expand in your heart and in your chest. Just feeling that glimmer, and notice that to whatever extent you're feeling it, that love, that joy, that abundance, that security, that you are activating it. It's not coming from outside of you. Just notice that. That's not a small detail. If you're feeling even a glimmer of joy or love or peace or security, that is already the proof that you are the source of it. That it never was the job or the boss or the money. And as you activate more and more of that, which I invite you to keep doing in this moment, just to breathe, and as you exhale, let that feeling expand and intensify. As you activate and generate that feeling tone is the very substance, like the raw material of that tree, that gets turned into the fruit. Through that alchemical process, that invisible feeling tone, as that gets embodied and integrated, that becomes the substance that turns into the branches and the blossoms and the marble and the leaves and the flowers and the fruits. You are activating it now. And now I want you to go even a little deeper and imagine the situation now where it feels to have been stuck or something's missing, and just imagine that whatever you wanted or needed, you're getting. Just to give yourself the permission to use the gift, the angel of imagination, to see and feel having whatever is missing. And take a deep breath and let that expand. And again, notice you're able to activate, if even a glimmer, it was always in you. And you can get so strong in this feeling tone because it's within you, you own it, that you walk through this world feeling it no matter what the condition. And then the world must shape itself around that inner feeling tone, that reality of your being. Now I want you just to take one more deep breath. And as you exhale, imagine that energy is radiating beyond you and into your environment. You can give it a color and see it and feel it, blessing and saturating everyone and everything, including the people, places, or things you have heretofore believed were your source. So now you are the source. You are the giver. You are the generator. You are in power. You are radiating it. Feel what it feels like to be the source in your world. To walk through your world being the giver, the generator, the source. Feel that inkling of power. And know this is the truth. And now as you look at that place or that relationship or that situation, now I want you to ask a question. From this feeling tone of knowing that I'm the source, and if I really knew and believed I was the source of all the good in my life, who would I now be in this relationship or situation? Who would I be and what would I do? How would I hold myself? How would I act? Now feeling this and knowing this, and if I really believed it, what would I do? Who would I be in this situation? And allow that guidance to bubble up. And this is your next steps in this situation. And as you act on this guidance, it will activate and solidify and integrate this quality even more. You need both. You need to activate the quality, and then you need to act from the quality. When you do that together, you integrate the quality. So take a nice deep breath as you're feeling it, as you're opening up to the guidance, as you're just leaning into this energy of love and support, as I offer a quantum prayer to just anchor this like never before. Knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is only one power, one presence, one life, one love that is radiating its infinite good everywhere in its fullness, wholeness, and perfection now, and that every individual on this call are individualizations of this one life, and that means that they contain within them everything that this one life is and has. Just as every wave in the ocean contains everything that is in the ocean water, just as every ray of sun contains everything that is in the ray of sun, just as every hologram, every piece of a hologram contains everything that's in the hologram. Each individual on this call is an emanation of the one power, the one source, the one life, the one love, and that means they are a source and an instrument of infinite wealth, infinite health, infinite power, wisdom, genius, joy, companionship. Everything that they could ever need, want, hope, and desire, everything that appears to be missing, they brought it with them, they have it with them, and the word that I'm speaking in this collective agreement is absolutely activating this truth like never before, striking this mystic chord of memory and stirring this divinity into activity. Now, something miraculous is happening. And all the false stories of lack and limitation and separation are dissolving and disintegrating now, melting like ice upon the rising sun of our own being. And whatever needs to be thought, spoken, released, embraced, or done to step into this truth now, to step up to this octave, this frequency, it's unfolding now. It's emerging with ease and with grace. We have the presence to open the gifts of our heart and soul like never before. And it's happening now. Take a deep breath and receive the gift that has already been given and that is always being given. Today is your appearance day. Today is your birthday, as you are giving birth to the next stage of your own evolution and your real mission and purpose for being here. I celebrate it with you. Happy birthday. Happy appearance day. Congratulations. And so it is.
Wow. I'm here and I got to say this. I'm just shaking because the layers of energy, the layers that were dissolved and moved through during that activation, Derek, that was astounding. I think that's probably one of the most powerful things you've ever done here. And when I asked to do something special, I mean, you really delivered. That was astounding.